And welcome back to another episode of the Ryan Log Fantasy Show, this being December 22nd, 2020. And we have some breaking news here at the Ryan Log Fantasy Studio, aka my basement. And we live in Ontario in Canada, and we will be going into lockdown as of Boxing Day. So what that means is Logan and I will not be able to meet together under the law. So we might not be able to post as much. We are planning on doing a fantasy award show after this week 16 recaps to recap the MVPs of the season, biggest busts, that kind of thing. But other than that, we're not going to be able to post a whole lot after that. And I think Logan and I talked about it, and we are only about going to do maybe one episode, two episodes, like here and there, talking about like big news in the NFL. Like it won't be as frequent as it's been, but we'll get some episodes out there.
Yeah, we'll definitely record when we can. It'll be interesting trying to figure out the remote recording, but we'll do our best to get something out to you when we can.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna leave you guys high and dry or anything like that. So with that said, this is going to be one of our last episodes for probably almost a week. So we're probably not going to cover much what happened this week other than the news that you need to know, that I lost my fantasy week. So,
sucker.
Well, I'm going for third this week in case anybody cared. I know there's one person that probably really does care in our group chat, and he let me know about it. And you know what? I respect the banter, and I liked it. It was funny. Went a little too far, only a little bit. But I like this stuff. I like just jabbing back and forth. Hope he loses. I'm sorry if he hears this. You can suck it. But with that said, there's some guys that disappointed this week. Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, both on my team. Both stank up the joint. And then there's some other guys just really blew up, like Tony Pollard, Joe Bernard. Other than that, there's other stories that we could dive in, but like I've mentioned, we're going to try to cover some stuff. We're going to go over some yays and nays. We're going to do a Week 16 Championship Week preview of all the games this season, or all the games this week.
It will be an 8-hour podcast.
It will be
go through every game of the
15-day
season.
podcast, so you better be ready to listen. So we are going to start right now with another yays and nays. Boom. We're going to hit it right back, like 4 days apart, because we're just legends. Logan is finally back, so I don't have to do this all on my own. Thank the Lord.
Yeah. Fill the air a little bit.
That's right. So we're going to start, Logan, with the QB position. Who do you like Week 16 for Fantasy Championship at the QB position?
It's a little bit scary, but Jared Goff. It's a great matchup against Seattle. That should be a high-scoring game. And no Cam Akers. Looks like he's going to be done this season. So that means that they should have to throw. Hopefully that means some Jared Goff touchdowns, and he'll have a pretty good week.
Yeah, you know what? I like Jared Goff. It doesn't look good that he lost to the Jets.
No.
The fact that the Jets won a game is probably the biggest story this week in the NFL.
Oh, it makes me laugh. Jets fans, they've had it so rough, and this is just like, it's the ultimate kick in the nuts for every Jets fan. I don't know how you come back from that.
It's not even the fact that you won a game. It's that you basically gift wrapped a present to Jacksonville saying, here's a nice shiny Trevor Lawrence for the rest of his career if he's good.
And on the same weekend that Justin Fields had maybe his worst college game too.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit scary to be a Jets fan right now.
Absolutely. It's a great day to be a Jags fan. But other than that, the Jared Goff thing, I like it because, like you've mentioned, Cam Akers is going to be out. So it's going to basically be up to Darrell Henderson to run the football. I don't know how productive he's going to be in basically almost a workhorse back type of role. And we're going to have to find out. I think he can probably do it, but at the end of the day, it's going to be more of a throwing offense for the Rams. So I think you're going to probably see a lot more Robert Woods, a lot more Cooper Kupp. And hopefully you see that especially when they're going to be playing the Seattle Seahawks, who do not have a good defense. And Dwayne Haskins even showed that, when he needs to, he can lead an offense against this defense. So I believe the Rams' offense is better than Washington.
I'd hope so.
I would hope so.
I mean, maybe not after last week, but
maybe not. But if they can, I feel like obviously that team's going to be massively motivated after losing to the Jets. So, and they're still fighting for division, so they got something to play for. So I would expect a little bit of a bounce back for him.
Yeah, I'd expect Sean McVay to come out with some of his best stuff too. Like that guy, he's a great offensive play caller, and I think this is going to be kind of an empty the playbook kind of game as they fight for the division.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? My QB love of the week is Jalen Hurts. And I feel like this goes without saying. Hey, that's my dog. You can be quiet, dog. But that goes without saying. Jalen Hurts has been on the waiver wire for multiple weeks. And if he is still on your waiver wire, please pick him up.
Yes.
Because he has shown that he is amazing at football. He just scored 38 fantasy points against an Arizona team that's actually pretty decent. And now he gets the Dallas Cowboys in your championship week. If you have a guy who you're not sure of, that maybe you could switch out for a Jalen Hurts. I love the matchup. I love what Jalen Hurts has been doing. He's reinvigorated that offense. And he could legitimately win you a championship this week.
He's looked really good as a quarterback, and he's a good rusher. Like, just looking how I do things, I usually make a list of 2 guys for each position that I either like or dislike, and Jalen Hurts was my second guy this week. Like, I am all in on Jalen Hurts. You gotta love that rushing upside. He's proven he can throw the ball, and it's a great matchup. So, really checks all the boxes you're looking for when you want to stream a QB.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anybody else that you like at the QB position?
No, as I said, that was my second guy.
Oh, wow, I stole your second guy. I apologize.
Great minds,
great minds think alike. That's how we do things here. And you know what? There's another guy that I'm kind of thinking it's a little bit risky, but I kind of like it what I did last week. That's Marcus Mariota. And that's only because if you're in a deeper league or a 2-quarterback league, or even if you're just looking to go for upside, I think Marcus Mariota gives you that upside. And they're going to be playing the Miami defense, which has been shown to be really good defense all year. But the one thing I really like to look at is last game against the Chargers, he had 9 rushes for 88 yards and a touchdown. So the rushing ability is there for Mariota. And Miami, as good of a defense they are, they can be beat if they play a good quarterback. They do give up points a lot of the times. So it's something to look for. I don't know if this is going to change, only because last time Mariota basically came in almost halfway through the first quarter, so they never game planned for him at all, and maybe it caught the Chargers off guard. But I think Mariota has the ability to get a good rushing floor like a Jalen Hurts does that can really help you get a lot of points.
Yeah, the one thing I would be watching for is Derek Carr could still play this week. Like, I don't know why they would play him, but there is talk that he could come back from the groin injury, so obviously if Carr's back, you don't play Mariota. I also wouldn't play Carr. But especially in 2 QB leagues, he's really interesting. Because again, we talk about the rushing floor all the time, and he's got that. Like, he's really good running the ball. So that, and what honestly is a pretty good Vegas Raiders offense, I actually like it with the rushing floor there.
Yeah. And all right, we're going to move on to the running back position. We're going to start it with the Yays. But before we start with the Yays, I feel like there's a very big question mark for the running back position this week, and that is if you're in your fantasy final and you have held Christian McCaffrey this long and you've made it this far without him, you are looking good. I don't know if Christian McCaffrey plays. He's still questionable with his multiple injuries, but if Christian McCaffrey gets good to go, you are in a massively good spot, because every game he's played, he's only played 3, every game he's played, he's been lights out good.
Yeah.
So if you still have him, that is something to look out for, because he's an obvious yay. There's no question about it. He's a yay every time he steps on the field.
Yeah.
But now we'll go to our real yays and nays. So Logan, who do you want to start out with?
I mean, this one's fairly obvious, but David Montgomery. Like, this guy, he's a league winner this year. Like, the last 4 weeks, he's been over 20 points, and now he gets Jacksonville this week. Like, it sounds crazy to say, but I feel like he's almost a shoo-in to score 20 points. Like, I don't know how Jacksonville is the team that's going to stop him. Like, I think you can get a huge game out of him this week, which I honestly never thought I'd be saying about David Montgomery.
I totally buy that, because when you look at the Bears play, and I have Allen Robinson in fantasy, and when you watch the Bears offense, ever since Montgomery came back from his concussion, he has looked like a different player. I've never seen such a transformation of Montgomery being to all of a sudden he just being like a top 3 running back option every single week. And he's done it almost against, like, doesn't matter what the matchup is. Like, he's just doing it against everybody. So, like, I totally agree with Logan there. I really like Montgomery. And I feel like if you drafted him at the beginning of the season when he almost looked like a non-contact injury, looked like he might be done the year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he comes back, and for the majority of the year, he looked okay, not
He was
great.
fine.
But now all of a sudden he's just like, yeah, like I would almost really, the only guy I would probably rank above him is like maybe like Dalvin Cook or like Alvin Kamara or even like Aaron Jones. But then it's David Montgomery.
Yeah, he's right up there.
He's like right up there. So I totally buy that.
Well,
And
when we talked about him in Something or Nothing a few weeks, or was that last week? I don't even
that
remember.
was 2 weeks ago.
Like my concern with him was the lack of volume, and then all of a sudden last week he rushed the ball 32 times.
Yeah.
Like that's insane, and they could very well just do that again against Jacksonville because, I mean, Jacksonville's terrible.
Jacksonville's really bad.
They're worse than the Jets apparently. Which, I mean, if that isn't saying something, I don't know what is. But yeah, I think this week there's not very many guys I would want to start ahead of David Montgomery.
Yeah, I totally get that. And like the Bears also have something to play for, so they're on a little bit of a roll here ever since, Trubisky Magic took back over. So I definitely like the Montgomery love this week. And a guy for me that I like is Le'Veon Bell. I feel like this is the first yay for Le'Veon Bell in like 3 years.
Yeah.
But like Le'Veon Bell has now got the job for the rest of the season. So if you have Le'Veon Bell, or it's very possible he could be on your waiver wire in some leagues.
Yeah.
If you have a chance to pick him up, or if you just have the opportunity that you've benched him and you've had him all year to play him, they're going to be playing the Atlanta Falcons. I don't care. It's
Yep.
the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
And this is big from Logan and I because he's a Chiefs fan. I'm a Falcons fan. And it sucks that we can't watch the game together this weekend because we talked about at the beginning of the season, like, yo, we play week 16. Well, let's watch this game.
Yep.
Obviously, I know my team is going to get destroyed, but still, it's kind of cool that we could watch it. But the Atlanta Falcons stink. Like, they somehow were up against the Buccaneers for the majority of this game on Sunday, but they basically the Bucs had no rushing attack.
Yeah.
So if you give Mahomes, Le'Veon Bell, like he looked pretty good against New Orleans.
He looked good, and our rushing attack actually looked better than it has, and that was against New Orleans, who has a great rush defense. So I was encouraged by what I saw for the Chiefs' rushing attack this week.
And without Clyde, that just means it's going to be Le'Veon Bell and Darrell Williams, so it means the majority of the snaps are going to go to Le'Veon Bell, who's the veteran and obviously a little bit of a better player than Darrell Williams.
He is significantly better, especially running the ball, than Darrell Williams.
And if they get up big, which they should against the Falcons, this is going to be a run-first offense probably around halftime, and you could see a lot of touches for Lev Bell, especially in the red zone, depending on if Mahomes pulls off some weird chest pass again to Travis Kelce to going into the end zone, like some weird stuff like that. But Lev Bell is my love of the week for running backs. You got anybody else, Logue?
Another one, this is a little bit of a deeper play. This is a guy who might even be on your waiver wire still, but Gio Bernard. He had a great week this past week against a really tough defense. He had 25 carries, and now he's going into a matchup against Houston. Houston, I mean, we've discussed this a bunch. Their defense is maybe, like, they're right up there with the worst in the league. So, great matchup. A guy coming off a great week, has the full role on a team that honestly seems to want to run the ball because they don't trust their quarterback. I think just volume-wise, he's going to have a good week.
Yep. And you know what? I kind of want to mention this quick. Logue, did we forget to do the nays for quarterbacks?
Now that you say it, I think we did.
So, who was your second? It was Gio Bernard?
Yeah.
So here's what we'll do. Now that we kind of screwed up, and we kind of admitted that we're kind of dummies in the last episode before our lockdown, I'm going to just go over my last yay running back, and then we're going to go over the nay quarterbacks and the nay running backs. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So, my other yay running back would actually be, depending on what happens with the Dallas situation, be Tony Pollard.
Yep.
Tony Pollard, like Zeke Elliott, has looked very bad ever since Dak went down in week 5. And you're telling me that Tony Pollard, or Zeke just gets healthy scratched in that game, and Tony Pollard plays against...
I believe it was an injury to Zeke. He's been nursing I don't remember exactly what it was, a knee or an ankle or something like that.
Okay, I just saw he was deactivated, so I didn't know if it was injury related. But if you're telling me that on 12 rushes, he got 69 yards, 2 touchdowns, also caught 6 balls for 63 yards against San Fran, who is no slouch at defense, for 28 points, which honestly could have been a week winner for most people. Like, he gets Philly. I don't know if he's going to start for Dallas, but if he does, he's a yay running back for me. Because I feel like if they go with the hot hand, I think he could do it again. There's no guarantees, but I think it's something to throw out there in deeper leagues if you held on to him or if you picked him up last week.
Yeah, he's not Zeke Elliott on the ground, but what he brings to the table is he's a great receiving back, which again, if you're in any sort of PPR league or really just in general, receiving yards, if you catch the ball 5 times, that's worth way more than running the ball 5 times. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you can get that, he's capable of breaking off a big play on really any given down. So I agree. I think he's a dynamic player, and if he's going to be the starter, I like it.
All right. So now that we screwed up, we're going to go back to the nays for quarterbacks. So, Logan, who you got as your nay quarterback?
I mean, this one, he's not even on my list, but just looking, Russ Wilson, if you have him, I mean, Jalen Hurts, I'd happily, it's not even close. I'd start him by a landslide.
Is this a second straight week of Russ Wilson on the nay list?
He's
right before Christmas? He's
been bad. Like, in his last, since week 10, he's been over 20 points twice, and one of them was the Jets. The offense has moved to more of a rushing attack, which historically is what they've wanted to do, and Russ isn't having that same passing efficiency he usually has, along with actually just a terrible matchup against the Rams. Mm-hmm. They shut down quarterbacks. So a guy who's been cold coming into the worst matchup in the league for quarterbacks, I would be really nervous about playing him.
Yeah. You know what? I definitely get that. He was on my nay list when I did the solo episode on either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember the day. But he's on my nay list. Like I said, he struggles against teams that really like to run the quarterback. And even just like Logan said, the last bit, he hasn't looked good. Even against Washington, the offense wasn't there other than the rushing attack.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that if you can pivot to a Jalen Hurts, I would definitely do that. I totally agree with that. Jalen Hurts is probably the better option at this point for fantasy. And if you've made it to the finals with Russ Wilson, I think you almost still might have to go with him because he has that ability to be a top 5 QB. But it's going to be tough. But I think you might almost have to bench him for some guy that's going to give you more of an upside.
Yeah, even like Russ Wilson, the upside really hasn't been there. The last time he had over 25 points was week 8. Since then, again, 3 times over 20. The upside was there early in the season. I don't know if it's still there with the how much they run the ball.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm gonna go to my nay quarterback, and it's a little bit. He's got a lot of love lately, but it's Ryan Tannehill. And I say this only because last week he put up 37 points, and everyone was, well, Ryan Tannehill is here. He did throw for 273 and 3 touchdowns, but when you look at the fact that he rushed it 3 times for 21 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, that's 12 points of his 37. So you take away the rushing touchdowns, he's down to a very respectable 25 points for a QB. And for Ryan Tannehill, that's really good for him. But if you look at his numbers, he's only been over 20 since week 7. He's only been over 23 times, and that's including this week, or the last week he played. So if you don't count that game, he's only been over basically 25 once. And he gets the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be a very important game for both teams. Green Bay is still, I think they can secure the number 1 seed with a win. So they definitely want to win this game. And Derrick Henry has been their offense running the football. So I wouldn't expect 2 more rushing touchdowns from Tannehill. And I also just don't like how motivated that Green Bay defense looks now.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, Tannehill, he had half his rushing touchdowns on the season last week. That's not going to happen again. Those are, especially for quarterbacks, it's very rare they score rushing touchdowns back-to-back weeks. So I would not be banking on that. And the throwing, he leans on A.J. Brown a lot. And Jair Alexander is a top 3, top 5 corner in the league who will probably shadow him. So it's going to be tough. And they will be able to move the ball on the ground. So I think this is going to be a Derrick Henry game. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball.
And just to let everybody know, I used to be a Tannehill owner this season after he put up 3 games in 5 weeks where he put up over 25 points. I traded for him because Dak went down, and then after that he didn't put up 20 when he was on my roster. So Tannehill will probably let you down like he let me down. So if you can avoid him, just avoid him. All right, Logan, who do you got? Do you have anybody else at the quarterback position that you don't like this week?
I mean, this is a guy he's probably more in the streaming category, but Kirk Cousins. He's been good for the last 5 weeks. Maybe he was a guy you're starting to think you could rely on, but at New Orleans this week, that's a tough matchup. Going on the road against a team that just lost and has something to play for, I think it's going to be a tough week for Kirk Cousins this week.
Yeah, you know what? Kirk Cousins has had weeks where he looks really good, and then he's had weeks where he doesn't like pass the football very efficiently. So Kirk is just very iffy. It's just a guy I would rather avoid in general, and he plays New Orleans on Friday, on Christmas.
Yeah.
No, nonetheless. But yeah, New Orleans is a very stout defense. They're going to be tough to play against almost every week. And when you get the effect that he has Dalvin Cook and they will love to run the football more than pass it, it's not a great idea to start Kirk Cousins when you probably have better options like Jalen Hurts or other guys on the waiver wire probably that can do better than a guy like him.
Yeah, I mean, I'd much rather play even Baker Mayfield against the Jets. Like,
hey, the Jets are on a winning streak.
Yeah.
Don't count them out.
Yeah, it's a hot defense.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the running backs, the nays. Logan, give me a nay running back.
I mean, we talked about Christian McCaffrey possibly being back. This is, if he misses, I still would not want to start Mike Davis this week. Like, we talked about most of the year that he's a plug-and-play guy if McCaffrey's out, but it just, I don't know. He hasn't looked as good lately. They're kind of working other running backs in, and then you combine that with the bad matchup against Washington on the road against a team that really needs the win this week. Like, Washington is going to be pushing hard. They're fighting for a division. I think it's going to be tough for Mike Davis to have a good week this week.
Yeah, and I definitely get that because Mike Davis he looked really good when McCaffrey first went down.
Yeah.
Ever since that, he's looked very average.
Yeah, he's gone back to kind of what we thought he was. Like, he's an average running back. So he's not moving the needle on what is I mean, it's not a great offense. They've had their moments, but it's not an elite offense.
I also don't like the Washington matchup. I think that really hurts him, especially with that really good defensive line. That's going to be tough to kind of rush against. Obviously, Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson did an okay job, but that's Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson. That's not Mike Davis.
Yeah.
Mike Davis is a little bit of a different player. He's not, I would say, as good, but again, I don't like the matchup. I totally agree there. I think a guy that I don't like this week is DeAndre Swift. And I understand I lost against DeAndre Swift last week, so I know how much it hurts when he scores 20 points for only the third time this season, but that's beside the point. But you know what? His rushing attempts went up to 15, but when you look at the fact that he had 2 rushing scores, it's anytime a running back has 2 rushing scores and only puts up 20 points, it's a little alarming. And I understand I just want to say only 20 points. The rushing scores are 12 points. So it means that if he does not get those scores, he's down to a very okay 8 points.
Yeah.
So they're playing Tampa Bay, who has almost the majority of all season has been a very good defense, especially against the run.
Yeah.
And with Detroit not being obviously very good, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more than they would. So I think it's probably a better idea for them to, if they don't get the run game going, if they don't keep this game close, they're going to almost have to ditch the run pretty early in the game, which is going to really hurt Swift's upside.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. He's definitely scary this week. Maybe he makes up for it with some more passing volume if they're trailing, but that's a tough matchup.
Like, and if he's got you here, I think he's still a flex option, but I don't think the upside is there what it's been the last 2 weeks. Just because, like I've said, Tampa Bay's a little bit of a better defense, and when you have the fact that even his rushing attempts was at 15 this game, which as a star running back, well, a good rookie running back, especially like him, that was only the second time that he's hit 15 rushing attempts all season.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a little bit cringeworthy when you look that he's only really topped double-digit running or rushing attempts 4 times all season. So if you're asking him to get you that kind of production in that little work, you're asking a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast too much, but I say this to you all the time. Like, when I'm looking at running backs, I'm just chasing volume. Mm-hmm. Like, I think for the most part, running backs are more just a product of their O-line. There's very few exceptions, and you want to chase volume and matchup, and neither of those are really in his favor this week.
Yeah. Do you have anybody else that you don't really like this week?
At the running back position, I mean, this one should be obvious, but Todd Gurley. I mean, I think he's at the point, like, you can't even consider putting him in your lineup. Like, the Atlanta coaching staff came out this week and said, I believe it's Ito Smith is their starter now. Like,
I think it's not just downright nays. I think it's almost downright droppable almost at this point.
I don't see any point in rostering him. Like, at this point, he'd be technically a handcuff, and it's week 16, so handcuffs are now worthless. So, yeah, he's he's been terrible lately. Now he's lost his job, so obviously don't start him.
Yeah, you know what? I get that. I don't really like the idea of Todd Gurley in general. He's been a very terrible running back out of these last 5 weeks. I think the arthritic knee and a little bit more injuries have kind of taken over again for Todd Gurley. It looks like he did last season.
Yeah.
And I think even like the last couple weeks, he's only had under 10 rushing attempts the last week combined. And you have, like you said, Ito Smith. If Ito Smith is outworking you and taking your job, you're pretty much a bum.
Yeah. Ito Smith, he's not good.
He's downright terrible. All right, and you know what? I think a nay guy for me is, it hurts to say, but I think it's James Robinson. And I think James Robinson, he's been a very okay running back. Sorry, I should not say okay. He's been a damn right stud this year because he's been on my team and I just like my guys. But the last couple weeks this Jags offense has looked terrible. Obviously, if he's there, he gives you a pretty solid floor of roughly about 10 points. But they're going against Chicago, Chicago looks like a team motivated to win. And that defense is still really, really good. And like I've said, that offense is really, really bad. So they can't really move the chains almost at all. So, and James Robinson's also questionable with an ankle injury, so I don't know how serious that is. I don't think it's anywhere near where he's going to miss the game. I don't think, I'm hoping he doesn't. I'm still going to start him if he's healthy, but I don't think the upside is there where it's been in games like where he's got over 20 points.
Yeah, I've heard some people suggest it could be a high ankle sprain for James Robinson, which, if that's it, he's not playing this week. Even if he does play, it is, again, like, bad matchup, and, injured, maybe not getting the full workload. That's scary, especially in a championship week.
Yeah, if you have him in your championship week, I would almost try to move to somebody even like a Darrell Henderson if you can, because I would rather chase the volume like Logan has mentioned. And it hurts to bench James Robinson at this point because he's got you to the promised land. But like I've learned my lesson. When you start a guy like Keenan Allen who is questionable and maybe could be limited, you kind of avoid that. Especially for running backs, if they have something wrong with their ankles and stuff, you just try to avoid in general. You don't really feel like starting him. So yeah, he's a nay guy for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they just shut James Robinson down. Their season's done. He looks to be like he could be a decent part of their future. And
not a decent part. I think he's legitimately a part of their future. He's doing this with terrible quarterbacks like Glennon and Minshew. If you theoretically put Trevor Lawrence as their new quarterback, the passing game is now there, which now opens everything up for James Robinson.
Yeah.
Because right now they're just stacking the box and he's still doing what he's doing. So I think he's part of their future big time. He's legitimately a Pro Bowler this year. I literally had an argument
He is not a Pro Bowler. He is a Pro Bowler.
Year. Yes, he is.
He is
and
not.
I will tell you why he's a Pro Bowler.
He did not make the team.
So
you are wrong.
He should be a Pro Bowler.
No.
Yes.
Running back should not make the Pro Bowl.
If you look at Nick Chubb, he has missed a massive part of the season. Does not have the same amount of numbers as James Robinson. Same with Josh Jacobs. They've missed time. They have not played every game, and they have less numbers than James Robinson, who is an undrafted free agent, and he is legitimately on the worst team in football, and he has still put up these numbers.
Oh yeah, in all realism, as far as running backs go, he's been one of the best this season. Like, he's been very impressive. And to lose out to two guys, one who hasn't played that much and one who has worse numbers on a better team, it is kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's just my little rant because I like James Robinson. I just like that. I've got this guy, and in a keeper league, I'm probably keeping him. So it's like I just want to hype up my guys.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the wide receiver position. We're gonna go start off with some nays. Logan, why don't you start us off?
We start with yays or nays?
Oh, obviously you're gonna start with the yays.
Okay, sorry, I thought you said
start
nays.
with the cream of the crop.
This is a bit of a deeper play, but I'm looking at the Texans wide receivers this week, which is Kiki QT and Chad Hansen.
Oh.
It's a great matchup. They've both played well we've talked about it a lot. They've had brutal matchups. Like, it's been Indianapolis, Chicago, Indianapolis. Now they get Cincinnati. So if they could operate in the bad matchups and do well and be like solid flex options, I think this week you could pretty confidently fire them up into your flex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? That Houston team actually looked pretty competitive this week, and they almost won the game. They legitimately should have tied the game, but they fumbled it away into the end zone at the end of the game, which kind of screwed them. But Deshaun Watson has proven that he can still be competitive with regardless of who you put on the field with him. So that's a good sign for those wide receivers. I like them, but I think it's a little bit too much for me to where you're hoping one of them does well and it's not really a guaranteed play.
Yeah, that's more of a, like, if you're looking for desperation waiver wire pickup kind of guys, I think they're very serviceable this week. Obviously, if you have like legitimate options, I would not be starting those guys ahead of them, but like kind of as like high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2 kind of guys, I think you could do worse.
Mm-hmm. You know what? This basically just goes on health reasons, but if you can have Tyler Boyd against the Houston Texans, yeah, I understand he got a concussion on Monday, but it's very possible you clear protocol by this time and play for Sunday. And if he's healthy, this you know what? This team looks pretty good. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is very unexpected. I didn't see that coming. And if you have Tyler Boyd, that offense looked all right. I think legitimately Cincinnati could win another game against Houston. Houston's looked very good, but also Houston has had games where they look really, really bad. And Cincinnati is pretty motivated after winning a massive game on Monday night. I think Tyler Boyd could have a pretty good game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a game that should be all offense. Neither of those defenses can really do anything. So, I mean, if you're willing, again, that to me is, I mean, I think he's in the same tier as the Texans guys, where it's a little bit scary. I don't know if you want to do it, but in a pinch, I think even you could throw T. Higgins into that group too. In a pinch, you can fire him up against a bad defense and play the matchup.
Yep. Any other guys that you really like this week?
I mean, this again is a very big dart throw playing the matchup. Mecole Hardman. The Falcons give up long touchdowns.
Yeah, this is true.
Hardman has not scored a long touchdown in a while. And
so you're saying he's primed for a touchdown?
He is due for a long touchdown. So, I mean, if you don't get it, it could be rough. But the volume has actually been better for him lately. He's been playing pretty well. And with that long touchdown, if you're like a heavy underdog or something in a championship game looking for a flex option, I think he's actually a pretty good guy to have that high ceiling of a big game.
Yep. And you know what? I'm going to go away with these dart throws. Another yay for me is my boy Allen Robinson. As we've already mentioned, they're playing Jacksonville. No defense in Jacksonville at the moment. And Mitch Trubisky's looked really good throwing the football as well. So like we've already mentioned, I think David Montgomery's going to have a really good rushing game. They might use him like they did last week and run the football a lot more, but Allen Robinson is their number one guy. They target him a ton. He didn't get a touchdown last week, but I would expect against Jacksonville that he could right the ship and get another touchdown for you. All right, now we go to the nays. Start us off with the guys that stink this week. No.
For me, looking at DJ Chark.
Yep.
I mean, that Jaguars, we've talked about how bad that team is. They're up against Chicago, which is one of the best defenses in the league. That's a great defense. In a championship week, I don't know how you play DJ Chark. Like, it's just, I'd much rather play the matchup and play like someone from that Texans-Bengals game where at least you kind of feel like they could put up some big points and maybe you pick the right guy compared to, I mean, how many points do you think the Jaguars actually put up this week? 10?
You know what? I think if Robinson doesn't play, I don't see them putting up 10. But if Robinson plays, I think they have the ability to put up 10 to 14.
Yeah, but like, do you really want to be playing a wide receiver on a team that, like, that's what I mean. Like,
Robinson
it's just
is the only guy you can really start in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yeah, so DJ Chark has been pretty much benchable all year. All right.
Yeah, he's a big risk this week.
Oh, he's been on my bench all year after I traded for him in the beginning of the season, so I don't like that I dealt for him, but you just take a chance, and like we've already said, he's been terrible all year, so keep him on your bench this week. Nothing changes there. And you know what? A nay for me goes back to Seattle. It's DK Metcalf. I don't like DK Metcalf this week. Obviously, he's a bona fide stud. You're going to start him. But if you look back to the last time that they played Seattle, DK Metcalf did not do well. DK Metcalf was pretty much bottled up by... Or sorry... What did I say?
You said they played Seattle. They played the Rams.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm losing it. They're playing the Rams. Last time he played the Rams, he did not have a good game. He was bottled up by Jalen Ramsey. Only put up about 4 fantasy points that day. And I think the big factor is the Rams losing to the Jets and that team being embarrassed, that team being motivated, and that team is looking to play a team like Seattle and just shut them down to show that last game was a fluke. And like we've already mentioned, Russell Wilson does not look good, and the Rams have an elite pass rush, so they're going to be able to get the Wilson and make him uncomfortable with the fact that Ramsey's going to be on him almost all game, it's going to be not a good day for Metcalf as well, I don't think.
Yeah, and it's funny because my next guy was going to be Tyler Lockett because that Rams secondary is really good.
Yeah.
Like, even beyond Jalen Ramsey. Like, those guys, they've been playing really well this season. And, I mean, Tyler Lockett, I mean, at least, like, DK Metcalf has been good. He's got a terrible matchup, like, individually this week. And Tyler Lockett is just, he's been pretty bad lately. Like, he has not been a good start for a while. So, especially in your championship week, in a terrible matchup, I'd be trying to stay clear of that whole Seahawks passing attack.
Yeah, it's only because the Seahawks passing attack has been elite for the majority of the season, but in championship weeks like this, you could look back at it after the week and be like, they just lost me my championship. I don't know why I started them. You'll have all those arguments, so if you can avoid them, avoid them.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the tight end position, and I'm going to start us off here with my yay tight end of the week, and that is Logan Thomas. I picked up Logan Thomas last week because I did not have any faith anymore in Hayden Hurst. And who would have thought that Logan Thomas, when Dwayne Haskins started, I almost pivoted away. I thought, Dwayne Haskins started, I don't trust it. He only looked good under Alex Smith. But who would have thought that Logan Thomas would get 15 targets for 13 catches and 101 yards?
Yeah.
Puts up 16.6 fantasy points without a touchdown, which is insane for a tight end. That's tight end one value right there. And now they're going to be playing Carolina, who gives up the 5th most points to tight ends, or receiving yards to tight ends. That is a matchup that you're willing to exploit.
Yeah.
And now it looks like if it's Alex Smith or if it's Dwayne Haskins, they're going to target Logan Thomas a ton. So I love playing him this week.
Yeah, he's become a crucial part of that offense. They don't, outside of Terry McLaurin, they don't have many receivers they can trust, and they trust Logan Thomas, and he's come through. So that was actually a guy on my list this week as well.
Really? Wow. Great minds think alike,
I mean, I think he's a great start. I mean, another guy I'm looking at this week, Austin Hooper. Had a good week last week, finally scored the touchdown, and now he gets the Jets, which is the number one matchup for tight ends. So if you're playing the matchups with tight ends, this is the matchup to go after. And Austin Hooper's a good tight end. If he can get another 6 targets like he did last week, I think he'll be a solid start for you.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that.
Which, at the tight end position, if you can get a solid start, that is rare and hard to come by.
And here's another big tight end news. It's technically possible George Kittle can be activated this week.
I think you should start him if he plays.
Well, I'm not saying. I'm saying if he plays, he is automatically boosted back into your lineup. But just remember that if you're not in a keeper league, it's very possible that George Kittle was dropped. So George Kittle could be on the waiver wire right now. And if you can pick up George Kittle on the waiver wire and start him in a championship week, goodness gracious. They get Arizona, it's Arizona. It's a very divisional matchup, but George Kittle is that offense.
Yeah.
So that's another McCaffrey issue that if he plays, this is a very big news for the tight end position. And you know what? I think another guy for me that I really like to start is Noah Fant. Noah Fant looked unbelievable against Buffalo. He had 11 targets for 8 receptions for 68 and a touchdown. Like that's the Noah Fant I thought we were going to get for the majority of the season. Like I thought we were going to get the guy that really looks good, but they played the Chargers this week, who have just about as bad a defense as almost any team in the league. So Drew Lock showing that he loves Noah Fant in the passing game, especially that little short middle pass.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would really like to start if you have the ability to get him or even plug him into your lineup.
Yeah, he looks like he's finally healthy. Like he was fighting injuries like crazy to start the season, and if he's healthy, he's one of the better pure receiving tight ends in the league. Like he's really dynamic. He's really good. So I agree. In a good matchup, he's a good start.
All right. Now we go on to the nays. Who do you not like?
I mean, this is assuming George Kittle is out. I still am not in on Jordan Reed. They have some serious quarterback problems going on there. Nick Mullins had surgery today, I believe, or is going for surgery. So he's not going to play. So it's either going to be CJ Beathard or Jimmy Garoppolo coming back from an injury.
Or Josh Rosen. Because technically Josh Rosen was picked up this week, so it's very possible, unlikely, but possible Josh Rosen plays for the Niners on Sunday.
Yeah, but none of those options give me a whole lot of optimism that offense is going to be moving the ball well this week. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, if he's back, he's rushed off an injury. probably not really practicing. CJ Beathard is just, he's not good. And Josh Rosen, again, he's never really shown anything in the NFL, and he would be completely new to the offense. So that if George Kittle's back, he's too good to ever bench, and he will probably overcome all those issues. But Jordan Reed is not at that level at this point, and I'd be pivoting away from that kind of situation where you don't know what's happening.
Yeah. And for me, my tight end A is going to be Eric Ebron. I understand Eric Ebron got knocked out of the game last night. They said he has no organ damage, so I don't know what the heck that is supposed to mean.
It means that his organs are healthy.
It means that they're healthy. But if they have to have a report that he has no organ damage, that means that's no start damage for me. Because I don't want to start this guy knowing that he could have possibly had organ damage on Monday.
Yeah.
And even when he was healthy, this Pittsburgh offense has gone to the crapshoot as of now.
Terrible.
I did not. When I watched that game last night, I could not believe how bad this team has become.
It's
downright
has
terrible.
Has a team ever started, 11-0, and then followed it up by looking just like they look like they could be like, what, a 4-12 team or something the last few weeks? Like
yeah, they look like they did last season without the offense.
Yeah, like it feels. I don't know if it's Big Ben isn't good, if their O-line is just killing them. Like, I don't know what it is, if it's the scheme, but something there is honestly just terrible. Like, it's not even good to watch.
Yeah, so like I've said, I don't feel comfortable starting Ebron. Almost all of these Pittsburgh players that we've praised all year have just been going to the crapshoot. So, especially Ebron, I think you stay away from. You don't even worry about it.
With the injury concerns and what is a pretty tough matchup this week, I would not be excited for Eric Ebron.
Yep. All right, now since we got the yays and nays done for this championship week, we are now going to move on to our preview, and we're just going to do what we've done all the other times we've done preview. We're going to go through these games pretty quick. We're going to go game by game, just kind of bring up guys that we like or don't like, and maybe what we kind of expect should or might happen in those said games. So we're going to start off with a Christmas Day game, which I don't know about you, I'm pumped to have football on Christmas.
I didn't even realize we had a game on Christmas until you mentioned it earlier in the show.
We have a Christmas Day game.
I was thinking it was Thursday still.
It is Vikings and the Saints on Friday. What do you think, Loeb?
I mean, I think on the Saints side of the ball, the only guy I'd be starting is Alvin Kamara. He's an absolute smash start with Drew Brees back, but I mean, with no Michael Thomas, the rest of it is pretty scary to deal with.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And you know what? It's with Drew Brees back, it gives you the opportunity that maybe a guy like Emmanuel Sanders could do something. But Drew Brees has been very famous in his career just to throw touchdowns to anybody on the roster. And even a guy like Jared Cook, if you're looking for a tight end, I would play him if you really are desperate.
Yeah, that's fair. Jared Cook is the one guy.
Is the only other guy I'd really start. And on the Vikings side of the ball, you're obviously starting, Jefferson, Thielen, Dalvin Cook. Other than that, that's pretty much where you're looking to go here. I'm not really interested in starting anything else other than that.
Yeah.
Depending on health, if Kyle Rudolph is out again, Irv Smith is another guy that you could look to.
Yep.
He's looked okay, and there's might be some red zone work against the Saints, but that defense is going to make it tough.
Yep.
Buccaneers and Lions, Saturday, Boxing Day games.
I like Leonard Fournette a lot this week, actually. Like, I think I'd expect him to get the bulk of the work on the ground with no Ronald Jones expected still, and that Detroit defense is rough. So, if you're looking for a deeper running back start, I think Leonard Fournette's a good play.
Yeah, and you know what? Rojo is technically still not ruled out. It's very unlikely he plays because when he's coming off the COVID list, he won't be eligible to practice until Saturday.
I think he still is dealing with a finger issue
Broken
as well.
pinky.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't make real much of a difference because Godwin only missed a week with the broken pinky as well. So I don't think the broken pinky is going to be the problem. I think it's going to be the COVID part of it that's going to be the problem.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Leonard Fournette's the guy to kind of start. And for me, it's on the Lions side of the ball. It's Marvin Jones again. Again, I lost to Marvin Jones as well as DeAndre Swift, so this Lions offense has screwed me.
Yeah.
But when they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, I think, against the Buccaneers, I think Marvin Jones is pretty much the only guy you can rely on other than TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
But I like Marvin Jones. He's been really efficient these last couple weeks.
Yeah, he's looked good. He looked at the start of the season like he might be washed, but second half he's really come on strong.
Yeah. 49ers and Cardinals.
I mean, I think you start Kenyon Drake. That seems pretty obvious, but he's actually been quietly solid since he came back from injury. So he's a good floor play. He's solid all around.
Yeah, and for me on the 49ers side of the ball, I like if Mostert is still healthy, I like starting Mostert. But depending on if he's not, Jeff Wilson.
I believe Mostert's, if not ruled out, basically been ruled out. So yeah, Jeff Wilson would be the guy.
That's why I was like, didn't bring up Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson is a guy I really like to start. He's had very explosive games when he's played.
Yeah.
And he has the ability to do it again against a division rival in the Cardinals, so I like him there.
He is weirdly good at scoring touchdowns. I don't know what it is, but he has a talent for being like 10 rushes for 15 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He's like, the red zone, let me turn into Emmitt Smith.
Yeah,
and be the best running back of all time.
I've never seen anything else like it. Like, he can be used anywhere, looks very average, gets into the red zone, just freaking goes super mode.
Yep. All right, Dolphins, Raiders.
I mean, start Dalen and Waller on the Raiders side.
Yeah.
That's about all I gotta say.
Football.
Waller, Jacobs, I don't know who else you really go with on the Raiders.
Dude, Marcus Mariota. No. But
yeah, if he plays, then I agree. You could go with Mariota, but I think the Raiders avoid the wide receivers. They're not very good, especially if Mariota's in. He's probably not going to look as deep as often as they were previously. He's going to look more to run the ball.
Yep.
So, yeah, avoid those like Aguilar, Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow. Like, those guys should not be in your lineup this week.
Yeah, and I think the only guy for the Dolphins I really feel good about is Salvon Ahmed.
Yeah.
So I really like, he had a career game. I think he was the first Dolphins player to rush over 100 yards since I don't know who else. It was some record he broke or something with that 100-yard rushing game.
Yeah.
So Salvon Ahmed is a guy to definitely look at against a Raiders defense that has looked pretty bad.
Yep.
So I think the Dolphins defense is something to look at.
For sure.
I'm going to play him again. They've been very consistent. And I think against the Raiders with Mariota, it's very possible that he could just throw some very terrible passes and get...
Yeah.
Your defense could do good if you play him.
Yeah, I feel like both their quarterbacks this week both have... Like, Mariota has that ceiling, but he's also shown in the past that you can... When he's bad, he is bad. So if you get him a bit rattled with that defense, they're a really good defense. You could have a really big week with that defense.
Yep. All right, now we move on to the game of the week. Falcons-Chiefs. This is only for us. This is not actually the game of the week, but for me and Logan's game of the week.
Yeah, I mean, start the Chiefs. We say this every week, but I already talked about Mecole Hardman as a guy that I think could very well score a 60, 70-yard touchdown this week. Sammy Watkins is back, and I don't know what his ceiling is, but he's been pretty solid. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, you're starting him. Lev Bell, you're starting him. Like,
Pat Mahomes, you're sitting.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk,
Yeah.
He's not a very good quarterback.
Yeah, I think for the Falcons side of the ball, since you did the Chiefs side of the ball, I feel like it's right that I do the Falcons side of the ball. For the Falcons side of the ball, you know what? You're going to start Calvin Ridley. You're going to start Julio Jones if he's healthy.
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost a decent option to start Matt Ryan again. He did very well against the Buccaneers, and the Chiefs do not have as good of a defense as the Buccaneers do.
No.
So I even think that Matt Ryan might be a startable quarterback again. I do like the ability that's going to be a very high-scoring game. We're going to have to throw the ball like we've done all year.
Yeah.
So Matt Ryan is even... You know what? I would almost even put Hayden Hurst back into that territory if you're looking for a tight end.
Yeah, I think Hayden Hurst this week, the Chiefs struggle against kind of those short passing options, those quick strike things, which if Hayden Hurst is used as a safety blanket, he could very well have 7-8 catches this week.
Yeah, and for the running backs for the Falcons, I don't trust any of them, really. Even if Ito starts, I don't trust starting Ito.
No, because they have Ito, they have Todd Gurley, and then who's the other guy that's been playing quite a bit too? Brian Hill as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mismatch. Never know who's going to get the work.
Yeah, fun fact about Ito, I think 2 years ago in fantasy, I started Ito for like 4 stretches when he was the backup because I was desperate for running back, so I thought I'm going to start my Falcons backup running back. I think it was the only 4-game stretch in his career where he put up like 10 points every week.
It was baffling.
It
made
was
no
funny.
sense.
It was like we all laughed about it because it was like beginning of the game, Ito with a touchdown, and it's like this is just stupid.
Yeah, he'd have like 3 rushes for 15 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah,
and
it was too funny.
I hated it.
All right, we're gonna move to the Browns and Jets.
Start both the Browns running backs. Like, obviously, you're starting Nick Chubb, but Kareem Hunt, he's been a little bit up and down lately. I think this is a week he could very well have a great game. The Jets, they're coming off a win.
Yeah, winning streak, baby.
I don't buy it. I don't think they're good. We've seen all season.
I don't think they're good. I think they got a 1-14 record to say they're not good.
You know what? I think they're better than the 1-14 record. Like, they've actually 1-13. Yeah, they've played some close games, but when push comes to shove, you could score on them when you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And Kareem Hunt is a very good running back. I think the Browns, I mean, they want to run the ball. He's going to be a part of that. And against the Jets, I think you can do that. So I'm in on him this week.
Yeah, I don't like anybody on the Jets other than maybe Crowder if you're in deeper leagues, or Perryman, because they have the ability to go for a long touchdown, and the Browns showed that they can be scored on almost at will with the Ravens doing it last week, so it's very possible. Other than that, start the Cleveland Brown defense.
Yes.
And that Cleveland Brown defense is for real, and against the Jets, you always start the defense against the Jets.
Yeah, for sure.
No doubt. Giants and Ravens.
Start J.K. Dobbins. He's been good. They've been using him. I mean, scoring touchdowns, putting up yardage. I don't know what else you could ask for. He's what they drafted him to be.
Yeah, I think for the same for me. It's kind of just start the Ravens runners. Yep. Obviously, you're going to start Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. Kind of stay away from wide receivers on both sides of the ball. Yep. There's the ability that guys like Slayton could go off for a big touchdown, something like that, but it's nothing that I'd feel overly confident about.
Yeah.
Bengals, Texans.
I mean, I feel like we've covered this game pretty in depth, but I mean, the wide receivers on both sides are kind of dart throws, and Gio Bernard, and I think actually running backs on both sides are pretty good starts this week.
Yeah, I like the both. I like starting David Johnson and Gio Bernard. They have the opportunity. They looked actually both pretty okay last week.
Yeah.
And Deshaun Watson has the ability to involve those the wide receivers to make that a kind of a high-scoring game. Other than that, like I've already mentioned, kind of you can look at Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins. It's the opportunity that's going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
Two crap teams playing. All right, Bears and Jaguars.
Sit everyone on Jacksonville, even if James Robinson is healthy.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. It's not worth it.
It's not worth. I'm going to start James Robinson if I can, but don't. I would advise you against it. If you can tilt away from it. Sorry, that's just my dog. He's going a little nuts here. All right, Colts Steelers.
I mean, Deontay Johnson might feel a little bit scary, but I'd still be pretty excited to start him this week. He had a good game. He struggled with drops, but I think he's a very good wide receiver, and they need him to be good. So I'd be happy to start him.
For me, this all comes down to pregame. If Juju dances, you bench Juju. If you see that pregame, you run away. You bench him. You start somebody else, because ever since he's danced, he's been a bum. So don't trust that.
I'm going to bring this up because I thought it was funny. I saw on Twitter today, I think someone went into their game last night, or was it? Yeah, it was last night, winning by, I think it was like 0.3 points or something like that, and they had Eric Ebron and Juju playing.
Oh, no.
And in their scoring format, Ebron had nothing, Juju had negative 0.5. So they lost when they were going into the final game with two guys.
Can you imagine losing your week?
Like, as much as I've
down
had
3 yards?
They were winning by 3 yards.
Oh,
and
they were winning by 3.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's even worse.
Yeah, that, as much as like we've all had bad weeks, I don't know how it gets much worse than that in the semifinals.
How do you feel if you're the other guy?
Oh,
if you're the other guy, you automatically think
buy
it's
a
over.
lottery ticket.
You automatically think it's over. You're just already planning for next week, and then when you find out you're gonna imagine that's to move on to your fantasy championship.
I mean, it would be.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Goodness gracious, that dude is, like you said, you buy a lottery ticket. That's just one of the saddest fantasy stories of the season. I'm sorry. But yeah, to go off that, if he dances, don't play him.
Yeah.
And then also for the Colts side of the ball, it's Jonathan Taylor. You start that man and you like it because he has been a beast these last 2 weeks.
I don't know what happened. I think, I don't know if he just had to figure out the NFL or what, but he looked very average the first half of the season. And the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's looked like a man, which is what he was drafted to be. He was drafted to be a Zeke Elliott type, and he finally looks it.
Yep. All right, Broncos, Chargers.
I mean, it's a little bit scary with the Chargers, but I think you still fire up Herbert, you start Keenan Allen, you start Mike Williams. I think you still just got to kind of ride with them.
This is all, I agree with that, because I have to start Herbert, and I might have to start Allen, but that all goes off also with health.
For sure, yeah.
It does help that they played on Thursday last week, so they had 10 days to kind of get a little bit more healthy, and with them being limited last game, that's a good sign that if they just get a week, then they both should be good to go.
Yeah, I'm assuming Keenan Allen, having been active and played at least a little bit, will be a full go this week.
Yeah, I would assume that, and especially against Denver, that's a really good spot with how Buffalo just absolutely obliterated them.
Yeah.
So that's easy for me. And you know what? If both of those guys miraculously don't go, look to Johnson. I can't remember his first name.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
It's Johnson.
Yeah.
Start Johnson because he scored a touchdown the last 2 weeks. He's looked good if Keenan Allen and Michael Williams don't play. But for the Broncos side of the ball, for me, like I've said, you start Noah Fant. I also like the option to start Melvin Gordon this week.
Yeah.
I'm going
I
up
agree.
against Melvin Gordon this week in my third place game, and you know what? I think it's an opportunity for him to have another elite game.
Yeah, he had a great week last week. They're riding with him, and he's been playing pretty well.
Yeah. All right, Panthers and Washington.
I think this week J.D. McKissick is actually a pretty good start.
Yeah.
He's been good since Antonio Gibson went out. He's got the receiving upside. He's been used as a runner quite a bit, so I think he's actually a pretty good running back play this week.
Yeah, and like I've already mentioned, you start Logan Thomas on the Washington side of the football.
Yep.
And then I like the receivers. I like DJ Moore and I like Robbie Anderson again this week because I think running the football is going to be tough for Washington, so it's going to be a lot more passing work. So it's going to be the option that, you know what, Mike Davis is questionable to do it against Washington. So I think they're going to throw to DJ Morgan. Like, he had a really good game last week. I would expect them to target him again a lot.
Yeah, those are both good players. It's a tough matchup, but they've both been pretty consistent all year.
All right, Rams, Seahawks.
And this is another game we've covered a lot. I think you bench your Seahawks. I think you can actually start your Rams, as weird as that is, in what should be a close game.
It should be it could very well be a high-scoring game, but yeah, I feel like the only guys you can really rely on is kind of like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods.
Yeah. I mean, if you have DK Metcalf, as much as it's scary, you probably have
You're going
to start him.
because he has the upside of a wide receiver 1, so you can't bench him, especially in your championship.
But it is kind of crazy because I look at this game, the Seahawks should be the favorite, like they are the betting favorite, and yet it feels like the Seahawks are terrifying to start, and the Rams, it's like, oh, it's a great matchup, fire up your Rams. Like it's one of those weird things. I don't really get it, but I mean, start Chris Carson if you have him.
Yep. Oh, I got Chris Carson, and I love the option to do it. All right, Eagles, Cowboys.
Fire up your Eagles. I mean, not the wide receivers, they've been terrible, but Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, they're all great plays this week.
I just saw a stat today that was crazy, that D-Hop has more receiving yards than all 3 Eagles wide receivers, which is insane.
It sounds about right.
But that is also with Carson Wentz. With Jalen Hurts, I think that'd be a different story. So we've covered this game pretty well, I think, too. So you fire up Jalen Hurts. I feel like the tight ends are a little bit iffy now, but I think you can start them. I like Dallas Goedert. He got a lot more targets than Ertz, I think. At least Hurts like to target Goddard anyway. And on the Dallas side of the ball, you like to start Tony Pollard if Zeke is not good to go. But even if Zeke's good to go, like, I feel like Zeke, you probably is the only guy in that offense you would start other than maybe like Amari Cooper.
Yeah, even Amari Cooper's a little bit scary at this point. Like last week, he had 2 catches for 10 yards on 3 targets. Like those wide receivers are just... It's a roulette. You never know who you're getting, who's going to be good, who's not. It's a little bit, especially in a championship week, I'd be very nervous about any of those guys.
All right. And then I think for the game of the week, Titans and Packers.
I mean, Derrick Henry.
What?
We've said this.
You're going to start Derrick Henry in your championship?
He is going to absolutely eat this defense alive, and I think they're actually going to be fine with that. Like the Packers, that's what they want. They want you to run. They want you to eat the clock. They'll live with it, and that's what the Titans want. They want to run. So I think it's just the perfect storm for Derrick Henry to absolutely blow up.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I feel like you start Derrick Henry. You're obviously going to start A.J. Brown, and most likely you would probably start Corey Davis because Corey Davis has been very efficient for these last few weeks.
Yeah.
And on the Packers side of the ball, you're obviously starting Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones. Devontae Adams had one of his worst games of the season last week, but that's not going to happen again. He's going to bounce back. You're going to start him. Tunyon, you're going to start him.
Yeah,
so I feel like almost everybody in this matchup I have no problem with on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to be a very high-scoring game with both teams really have to win this game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Mm-hmm. All right, then we move into the last game, Bills and Pats.
This game almost feels like a who do you actually feel comfortable starting. Like on the Pats side, I don't know if there's anybody, and on the Bills, Stephon Diggs I don't think is going to play.
Is it? Because I heard it was nothing serious.
If he plays, obviously you're playing him, but if he doesn't, that even worries me for Josh Allen. Like, it's a tough matchup without his top receiver.
Yeah, it says reports on Diggs, they don't seem worrisome. So I don't know if that's...
Yeah.
So basically, he's most likely going to be questionable going into this game. So if he doesn't play, you're obviously playing Josh Allen, but there's nobody really in that offense other than
Cole Beasley.
there is no vaccine for the Beasles. There's a vaccine for COVID, but there's no vaccine for the Beasles. And especially if Diggs cannot go, there will be an epidemic in New England of the Beasles.
Yeah, he's the only guy on Buffalo I'd really feel comfortable starting.
Yeah, he's been really good these last few weeks, and if, like we've said, without Diggs, even with Diggs, I would start Cole Beasley in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So that's no problem with me. Other than I don't like anybody in New England. I don't know about you.
No, I'm the same. I don't know how you have any confidence in anyone there.
Yeah. Okay, so that wraps up this episode of the Ryan and Log Fantasy Show. This actually being our longest episode ever, so if you've actually listened all the way through, thank you. We really do appreciate it.
Congratulations.
You have made it. Winner. Gagnon. Is French for winner if you're not from Canada. But,
yeah, if you're from Canada, you've heard that from a lottery machine about
winner,
a million times at
Gagnon.
a corner store.
A million times. But like we already mentioned, we're going into lockdown on Boxing Day, so we don't know exactly when we're going to be able to film. We're going to try to do a phone call film on next week with our MVPs and busts and that kind of stuff. We'll see how it goes. We'll test it out. And if it doesn't work, then you'll definitely figure it out.
Yeah, we'll post something on. We'll probably comment on this video.
I can probably do a post. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll let you guys know what's going on if there is no video.
Yep, absolutely. So if you've made it this far in your fantasy championship, good luck. Hopefully you can win it. Unlike myself, you
are a disappointment.
I am a disappointment to myself and my family. No.
Yep.
But yeah, hopefully you do really well. It's going to come down to pretty much going over projection and just having guys do stuff that maybe they haven't done. If you're looking for guys that are questionable, you're not sure, go for those high opportunity guys that could just blow up. You never know. But other than that, thank you for listening. If you would please like and subscribe, we would very well appreciate it. We want to try to grow a little bit of a fantasy community here. And like we've said already, Logan and I will probably not post a lot of videos after the season is over. If you guys want us to cover a little bit of the playoffs, we could do like a video once in a while covering the playoffs, that kind of thing, talking about it. But for the majority, we'll only do a podcast when like bigger news comes out. We'll probably start posting a lot more once the off season starts and free agent signings and the draft. And then we'll actually get kicking back up a lot right around the end of July and August, talking about mock drafts and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's probably when we'll be consistent, like weekly or anything like that. Again, will become draft season. Other than that, it'll be big news, maybe a few during free agency, the draft, that kind of season. But
yeah,
that's when we'll really be getting full flight, full go. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun. It'll be interesting actually, looking at the off season with a more of a fantasy view than usually. I'm more just looking at it with the view from my Chiefs as a Chiefs fan, that type of thing. But it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, because we started this about halfway through this season, and if we go through the beginning and do mock drafts and stuff, like I'm actually really excited about the prospect of doing something like that. So
yeah.
And also, if there's anything else you guys want us to talk about, just say something in the comment section. I look at the comment section all the time. The maybe one or two comments that are in there, but if you want to comment, just let us know. Like, we're always open to new suggestions and whatnot. But again, thank you for listening. Like and subscribe, and I'll turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new videos. And stay safe out there. And as always, stay classy.